Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Allie with Amory Speaks, and this video is on the topic of light work, some practice points, and some personal observations, I guess, is what I'm offering here today. I have been more mindfully witnessing and working to honor my light and shadow work and cycles and integrate more fully those portions of myself in order to find a more harmonious neutrality through the middle, a comfortable path through the center of dark and light, of masculine and feminine, and all of that kind of sacred alchemy, I guess, is the best word for it. And I thought it was a great time to share this and create a video around how I do that and how I'm working to do it more fluidly, and hopefully that will help guide others and also help myself to hear out loud what I'm doing and to really reconnect, reignite, and bring it back to the basics for myself and my own harmonics, just to, live action learning, I guess, is really live action teaching. There's nothing like learning in the moment, and there's nothing like newness and trying to portray and explain out what is in the now, what is new, what is, getting a handle on things. So with that in mind, I bring this episode here about light work to everyone. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for checking out this video, for tuning in. I talk about a variety of things, introspection, spirituality, and happiness. It's kind of my tag phrase. But in with all of those things, and in seeking those, to know those things more deeply, we, or I even, have this quality of work that needs to be done in order to find more definition, right? It's and it comes on the spectrum of duality. It comes from comparisons and contrasts, and finding similarities and finding differences, right? So it's my kind of hope with this video here today to kind of bring forward that introspective work that really has to take place. Really, it's crucial if you can catch it in a kind of timing like I'm catching mine right now, before your energy tank really depletes itself. Because what happens, and if you are brand new here, I'll just quickly give you an idea of what I'm talking about with an energetic gauge, sort of like a fuel tank. There's different cycles that we go through that have to do with the energetics inside of us, and sometimes we are full of energy, full of this sort of powerful action, electric charge, to do things, and that is considered light work. It's considered the more positive charge, We also have more of the quote-unquote empty side of the tank, which is like the negative charge. It's the depletion, it's the slowing down, it's the needing to stop and ruminate, the need for integration and quiet time, right? The working through and the understanding that comes after you're part of an experiment. You do some sort of action, you do some sort of interactions or transactions with external things. Afterwards, you have to bring it down. You have to come back and remember and think through it and recall You know, the pros, the cons of it, what worked, what didn't. Did it fit expectations and assumptions or not, and why? Um, and that's part of kind of the shadow work side. Um, you know, the the gauging in between and the honoring of the times that you're at is kind of the name of the game. Once you get a handle and you can identify those times within yourself, because first and foremost we have to identify and know that those are there and understand what they mean to us, internally and externally. But I've talked about that in a lot of videos already, and for this one here I wanted to kind of just give some practice points and talk about the logistics of when you're in the work, when you do understand it. Like for most people who would come and watch my videos and who maybe are subscribers, or even if you don't subscribe and you just happen to see my videos a lot and watch them and enjoy them, you already probably do this sort of work within yourself, or at least are seeking more information around it, and you're very familiar with the concepts. And so for that reason, I wanted to just kind of take it to this working level and say that this as this little prelude and build up, right? That this is for people who have already identified the cycles and want to be able to find that easy shifting of gears sort of at the right moment, right? You have to find that fluid momentum, and you have to be changing with some grace and some ease, because it can be very jerky when you first learn light and shadow work. And it can seem, and I've talked about this many times, but it seems like light and shadow. It seems like day and night. Very separate, very obviously different, right? Day has the sun out, it's bright, everything's alive and awake. Night has, you know, darkness with the moon, everything's quiet and, you know, resting or hidden. However, if you were to stay awake all night and all day, say stay awake for a 24-hour period and witness the whole of both cycles, you'll start to notice mid-morning, mid-afternoon, evening, dawn, dusk, all of these sort of shadings of time in between the transitions. But it's only after you know both sides, have seen them, know that they're a whole, and you get the chance and the opportunity to stay awake for 24 whole hours, right? You get a chance to witness the whole at work. Then do you appreciate? Then do you see gradient? Then do you even be able to have a favorite time of day or night or whatever? And why? And maybe you appreciate all the times even deeper, because you have got to see that changing of lighting, that the way it shifts the atmosphere, the way different things around in the organic world respond to that change of atmosphere, and do different things because of it. That is the beautiful metaphor for your own day and night within yourself, and your own light and shadow within yourself, and your own masculine and feminine within yourself. And when we start opening up and having conversations about the common ground, about the templates at work, you know, about the generic instructions here that we all fit within, then you can really appreciate all of it, right? Then you can really supercharge your light and shadow work. And then also, like I'm saying from the start, right, then you identify these times within yourself, and say as you're approaching the darkest night, the darkest hours of the night, you know the little the nuances that start to happen when it's actually switched and now dawn is approaching, right? That tiny gradient of light, that maybe one bird chirp here or there, that rustle here or there, that little, you feel a change and a charge in the air, right? The wind shifts, the smells change. The lighting is just barely different, but you know, you see a lightness somewhere, right? Those little changes in your own energy work, you'll start to notice. So instead, and I've talked about this numerous times in my own kind of shadow work, in my playlist on shadow work and stuff. in energy alchemy, that learning this and feeling before that it was very much like I would deplete all of my light and be full of shadow before I knew it, you know what I mean? And then I'd be down and out and really drowning in it and not have realized that it's because I've depleted all of my light and I have no light left to even service the shadow, but now I'm stuck in a negative, down in the dumps, and I have none of my own light and love to fuel myself out because I've kind of forgot about it in the transition and been sucked into just the nighttime and kind of really forgot about, the day and the sun and my light. But in that, then comes the working of noticing and the nuances. And so here, along the years, I now am at that point where I'm sensing more nuances and trying to find that more ease, that more graceful, prepared, but comfortably open, holding positive potentiality out there for anything to happen, but also having that ease and confidence that comes with trust in the whole, trust in the ultimate outcome, trust in the ultimate ending and plan. It's a really difficult dance steps, or a difficult juggling act to really learn and start to try out and practice. And yeah, you drop them, you fall, you crash, you find yourself at dark nights of the souls and rock bottoms like I did. You have to take total weeks off just to process the things that you brought onto yourself sometimes when you get into learning too quickly, or you get to rushing your dance steps and or rushing the project or the art, the painting, you know what I mean? Rushing your own creative juices, and you do one wrong thing and your hand goes too quickly on a mark that you meant to be very detailed, and just a little touch of the brush in a certain way, and you have a little twitch and you ruin the whole thing, right? These things are all things that I've been going through in the last couple of years. Those sort of, in the moment, you only know them when you go through them, and you only learn the work by doing it. And so now I'm coming to try to speak from more wisdom, more experience, deeper, to all of us, to remember and remind us that we all need to bring it back to the basics. We all need to always find a deeper level, find a newer appreciation for witnessing the passing of those, the time, the passing of the sun, right? The passing of the day and the night, to bring it into the metaphor originally, every minute, instead of looking at things hour by hour, maybe, section by section, afternoon, mid-evening, night. Instead of breaking it up like that, now you start to see 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. You start to really notice that there's a time happening here, there's a schedule, and witness that. And then maybe you say, oh, it's not even just shifting 1, 2, 3. It's actually, there's a minute hand in there counting the minutes too, and there's 60 seconds that make up that minute. There's these intricate little 60-second schedule that happens before this one turns, and collects another minute. We don't realize those workings, those mechanisms within our light and shadow and our exchanges of energy exchanges if we're not consciously witnessing them, right? If we don't even sit back and take time to observe them and watch them first and learn them, And that's what I did a lot with myself, and I have done, and it's a habitual thing too. And I've been talking about this, and I'm going to talk about it more with the negative agendas, tricks, and traps, with the mind control mechanisms, because the underlayings of the programmings, sometimes we get caught up in being awake and seeing the matrix for what it is, or seeing the shadow for what it is, seeing those the shadow workings, the creepings, the kind of mind manipulations that we do to ourselves, those tactics. You get familiar with them within yourself, and just like we get familiar with them out in the external world of the nonsense out there that they're pulling, right? Although we're aware of them and we're observing them, we kind of forget, and I forgot myself, I'm very guilty of this. We are still under the influence of it in the atmosphere. We are still responding and interacting on energetic frequency levels with that message, with that negativity, with that shadow. It's still there bombarding our field. And if we aren't conscious about that all the time in our field, it seeps in. rain and cracks in the pavement. It just gets in. And if you're not mindful like that, your shadow is getting fueled while you're doing other things, and you're not realizing that you're keeping that shadow really fueled, and then it has the power to kind of make out calls on its own and start pulling negativities towards you. But you're caught up in light work and feel great stuff, and creations and creativity, maybe creating systems or projects or whatever. And so you don't kind of realize the pool that's happening in the shadow, and that they're also drawing in kind of self-sabotage things. And maybe you face catalysts and disruptions in the world, and you're wondering, oh, where are they coming from? Or, oh, why do I keep doing this to myself? Or why does it always play out like this? Here's this thing again, right? And this is the function that's happening, on many levels. And it's obvious at certain levels. We see it with people turning a blind eye to the nonsense in the external world, that cognitive dissonance kind of thing that's happened with a lot of the masses. They've been really corralled into this sort of groupthink, and they turn a blind eye to common sense. They turn a blind eye to things that before they might have questioned, or they might have thought a completely different way about it, but because it's been this sort of netting happening in an echo chamber that they are allowing and consenting to, right? Because they're refusing to hear outside of it. That's a great display, and it's an example for us. But if you're noticing that, if that really irks you, if you're seeing it a lot, know that those are red flags from your own shadow. That's that magnetic pulling of the shadow, seeing and reflecting likeness out there, and really wanting you to turn your lens inward and explore what you're doing to yourself on that level in some kind of way. It doesn't have to be as big and obvious as that, the external examples that we're seeing in the world right now, like, COVID and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's been quite a ramble around town. But it's my hopes to kind of relay this understanding to people about the depth and the quality available, because the surface level is, I don't want everybody to get stuck at the surface level and to just skate across it. However, when people like me, we dive deep and we go off exploring, and you're down in the trenches, and you're doing all this kind of discovery down underneath the belly of the icebergs and stuff, we're forgetting about the appearance of the surface level, and that it does have an actual quality of truth up there. It does have a value, and it has a working of its own. And so this is kind of like my encouragement to all of us, and a reminder to all of us that we need to come up back to the surface and look at those basics and bring it back to that always. And instead of waiting, right, in this under the water metaphor, instead of waiting until your air tank is depleted and you're like, oh my God, am I going to make it up to the top, have this whole kind of experience about whether you're going to die or not, and whether you're going to make it up to the top, and how quick you can swim. Don't swim too fast, Such a beautiful metaphor. Instead of doing that to yourself, and there's worth in those types of experiences, right? You learn a lot in those kind of near death, oh my gosh, am I going to make it or not? Am I going to, swim up too fast? Is there going to be actual consequences to this, or am I going to be okay? Am I going to, there's a lot of value to that experience. But if you want to be a swimmer and you want to dive around and enjoy your thing every day, come back to swimming, snorkeling, or whatever every day, or diving, do you really want to put yourself through that extreme emotions, that extreme kind of thing every single time? Probably not. I mean, I've gotten tired of it. I did it many, many layers in many, many ways for many years, and still I catch myself in certain factions and angles of working when it comes to certain types of scenarios I find myself in. I still am that, seeking that kind of experience, seeking that kind of really extreme reactive kind of life or death, cut or dry scenarios. But on the most part, for the most part in my daily life and things like that, I really don't like that. And I really am finding the beauty and the ease in knowing, okay, actually I have 2.5 hours of air here. So let me go dive around and actually pay attention to my timing and get things, go in a sort of a general area that I'd like to, explore today, and keep a rough mind of the time and give myself an hour and a half, 2 hour window of time to do what might come up, but to also know about the wrapping up, to also remember when it's closing time is coming up, and to not be the last one at the bar, right? Not to deplete my air when I'm down there, have plenty of time to swim back and swim up and maybe have air left over. You don't have to deplete your air every single time. Some of us, a lot of us, and myself included, in this kind of light and shadow work warrior kind of mentality, we think, oh, we have to deplete our air tank. It's not risky enough if we don't. We haven't gone full. We're not, living to the fullest. We're not fighting fully for our light, or we're not leading, as strong leaders if we don't take these great risks. We don't deplete our air tank to the very last thing, or, say we don't give half of our air tank away to everybody who's down there not mindfully using theirs. There's so much working, right? And when we start to pull out of emotions in our day-to-day lives, and we start to look at ourselves from metaphorical angles like this, and look at our light work and shadow work, our energy, our emotions, all of these things, our frequency, our vibe, whatever you like to look at that as, that part of you, when you start to look and witness and have ownership of that, it creates such a more enjoyable experience. And then maybe you get to choose those times that you want to have the extreme experiences and you kind of know they're coming, and you get ready for them, and you prepare for them, and you go into them ritualistically. You go into them as big cleansing detoxes or fastings, or these kinds of silent meditation periods, retreats and stuff like that. You get into kind of times where you're preparing in a more traditional way to go into those kind of things, a more conscious, connected way, right? Instead of kind of feeling like the tide has brought you and you're just riding with it. And so, for some practice points of, of real working here. My personal kind of space, my plateau that I'm working on now, has a lot to do with the buildup of momentum, the creative concepts and dreams and goals, projects, ideas that all kind of happen and collect around me. That almost can get overwhelming. And it's been similarly to the light and shadow kind of functioning in the working and the balancing between that. I don't like to put creative projects on light and shadow spectrum, because I get a lot of creative stuff from my shadow and I get a lot of creative stuff from light. So, and I think they both have great value in creating art and works of manifesting those kinds of solid forms of creation. However, what I will say is that they do come in more spurts of these feelings of bubbling up, lots of ideas, overwhelmed, so many things to choose from, versus nothing, blank page, stalemate, kind of writer's block, absolutely nothing, like a trickling of creative juices kind of thing. And it habitually would be through that. And I have very extremes of it throughout my life, definitely, in almost like this kind of bipolar manic kind of waving. Same thing with the shadow and light work, and it would come with overwhelm, burnout, and seeking in between there has really helped me understand what the real whole of that is. And this is kind of what my practice points in the shadow working is about, and this is why I really started with talking about the splitting and the contrast between and the finding the gradient and seeing the whole and knowing that 24-hour cycle of the day and night example. Because all of our duality represents, at the end of the day, a whole of some sort. Just like the coin has its heads and a tail side, but it is a coin, and that coin in itself represents currency, and it has a working all on its own as the coin. You know, just like these burnout and the overwhelm, it has this overarching theme of creation, of making things, of ideas, of newness and exploration, right? Whether I have a ton of it or I'm seeking it, you know, whether it's an overflow or a trickle, you know, it has to do with that the thoughts and concepts of creation. And when we pull out of it and realize that, then, you know, you get a chance to really realize your cycles and realize what's happening, what's fueling them, and what sparks momentum and what slows it down, right? And everybody is so different and unique, and so that's why I love to keep this general, and I will keep it general, because I'm hoping that you'll hear the keywords and the phrases, and that they will identify with things with you, where you could put the tailor-fitted uniqueness of your fingerprint on there and say, that's this for me. This is, you know, and it's like a domino effect of, you know, synapse connections. Ding, ding, ding. Ideas along the way, connections, right? For my own self, this sort of gradient of working is really becoming super powerful. And it's sort of like I talked about how the shadow is, you know, trickles in, rain trickling into the pavement and the cracks, and it kind of soaks underneath it until a puddle can be formed. Wonderful positive things work like that as well. Unconditional love works like that. Our creative juices and our ideas work like that as well. And when we remember that, and when we anchor in that, it becomes a great ignition for that internal flame inside of you, for your light. And in that working and in that kind of knowing to fuel my own light, instead of allowing it to get down even, you know, just get a little bit more. Fuel yourself up here and there while you go. You know, keep doing things that bring in your light and that fuel you up while, you know, you're doing shadow work, because it's the integration of that is the next step. Don't rush into this, and this is why I'm saying this, you know, is for people who understand what I'm talking about and who have been doing that kind of work and seeking these sort of next steps on their own. Because beginners, it's so important to take time and learn and watch your own cycles and do the day and night contrasts. You'll never, you know, if you have to ask, you'll never know, kind of thing. It's only for you, and your life is only for you. Your working's for you, just like my workings in my life is for me, and everything that I learn and I bring into myself, my epiphanies and understandings and little interconnected connections, synchronicities, right? Those are special and unique to me, and that's the beauty of it. That's the gift of it, really. And so by sharing mine, I'm not saying you need to have the same ones or even similar ones, but it's just to inspire you to seek yours. Because when you get to seeking, you'll find your way, just like I found mine. You know, there's no two ways about it. We all are on the path. And as soon as we listen to our own self, and as soon as you do the seeking at your own level, the layer you're ready to, you clear it and look at it, you assess it, you will find the next one underneath it. And you will get to what you're ready for the next one. And if you clear it and assess it and you wait, you'll be presented with the next thing. And it will be just perfect for you. And yeah, so this is, the depth of, again, circling back to the same thing, bringing you back to the basics, things we've heard a million times. But there's newness there. There's new quality to be found, if you allow yourself to. And so with the burnout and the overwhelm cycles, in case people are facing that too, and I'm sure many of us do. I mean, I know so many people who do. One thing that I've found to anchor myself into, and that's been very comfortable for me, and was almost like, when the puzzle pieces finally click in and they match right, and you see the little picture that's supposed to be there, and it's like, yes, I got it. I had this moment to understanding those interlocking pieces for myself, and it's the same working that I talked about before when I talked about why I'll never fear the shadow, and how I always know good wins. And that sort of working and understanding has been pulled out of that sort of pigeonhole for me, and I was able to take the template and use it and understand how it works within the creative space, the imagination space, the place that we interact, with collective consciousness, with creative consciousness, that really enjoyable place. And knowing that that place is always there. It can't be impacted or affected in any kind of way. And just like your eternal flame, your light, your love, your fractal source of God can never be tainted or taken away, because it's from the before. It's from the outside of whatever this construct is. It can't be impacted by the inner workings. Imagination space and our beautiful creative minds, whatever is the mind boss connection here in the mind body spirit complex, right? That's from before. That's from the outside workings. That's, has part to do with the sacred boundaries of the whole, and the purpose of the whole. And so it can't be impacted really by the inner workings. It can only be explored deeper by the inner workings. And that really fueled a whole different way for me to understand when we create an imagination space, when we make up things, when we envision projects, when we have ideas of outcomes, we have plans, expectations, when we envision a painting or a drawing or a new book or writing or whatever the case might be for you that fuels, your internal creativity, a new dish, a new food, a blanket you're making, or maybe you make clothes, or you have a play in mind, or a song. There's an infinite exploration of manyness here available for us, right? And those nuances and that exploration is what we're here to do. It's the point of it. And that can't be affected. And having that anchor of understanding that for me took the rushing away of all the projects, of all the to-dos, of all the things I had planned out that I felt like they're crushing in on me. And if I don't grab at them and do this now, and I don't tie it up quickly and put a bow on it and wrap it and present it out to everybody right now, they're never going to see what it was, and I'm going to forget about it, or it's not going to be as good. Or conversely, wait, don't wrap it yet. It's not ready. Other people can't see it yet. Don't put it out there. Let it sit over there for a little while until it's absolutely perfect. Those are negative constructions of my shadow and control mechanisms of fear and anxiety about how things will be looked at by others and how I will be tied back into them and responsible for them. And, that is not the way I want to operate. That's not the way I want to live. I don't want to be creating a bunch of slave projects out there that I feel I have to micromanage and tag around after, keeping like the books on and tallying the likes and the dislikes and stuff. I don't want to be artificial intelligence coagulating data for no reason. that doesn't impact me. I should let that free and be free and let it be as it is and interact in the world and change and mold if it wants to. Be seen in different ways if it wants to, because it is not attached to me. It doesn't reflect me in any way except my unconditional love, except that creator essence that I was embodying at that point. And this is the other tie into the imagination space and the generality of the collective, and understanding that ideas, concepts, inventions, newness, songs, melodies, all of these things that we get from our imagination, from our minds, from that space, is given to us from the outside, from the before, from the creator, from your higher self, whatever kind of way you want to look at that as. It comes down from somewhere. And we don't own these things. And when you take out ownership of these ideas and concepts, these dreams and goals, and you realize, okay, I don't own that. That isn't just mine. I didn't just make it up. It's a collective template. It's an idea that I get to shape and mold into my own presentation of what I want to see of it right now. But there's infinite ways to make it, and that's wonderful. And if I want to throw this one away and create a different version next time, I can. Maybe people like it better, maybe they won't, but the other one's out there living its life, and I can move on to the next thing, and if people like that one better, go and check it out. But it doesn't mean that I am the thing. I'll give an idea or metaphor of this, of what I'm talking about, in case people didn't really. I talked about this with the shape of a heart before, and I gave metaphors about how God, or how religion, truth, the one truth, is like the shape of a heart. And it's up to us to make it whatever we want, create that heart shape out of any material, of any dimensions, rough or smooth. That's up to you. And another example of that is, I love this example, it's like if you go into an elementary school and you see on art day or whatever, they give the kids a topic to do, like paint a farmer and a chicken, whatever, Old MacDonald, and you like paint Old MacDonald's farm. And you let the kids do it. And even though maybe they all know there's a red barn on it, there's a cow, there's a pig, because they've all sung the song, they know there's Old MacDonald, right? They each have a different vision of what, maybe some of them draw a fat farmer, a skinny farmer, a tall farmer, a woman, a man. He has got a family with him, even though it's not included in the song. Or maybe all the animals are, look realistic, or they don't. Maybe they chose to do the barn differently. Maybe they have tall grass or short grass. Maybe there's flowers out front of the house. Maybe there's not. Maybe there's bushes. Maybe he's got a monocrop. Maybe he's got a food forest. Every kid, when you look at all their children's drawings of his farm, and you have them up on the wall, any parent who's gone to like a school thing I remember doing this with my kids. When my older son was at public school. My younger son's never gone to public school. But my older son did for a while. And I remember going in there and seeing the different versions. And maybe the mother in me, you appreciate each drawing because they came from a child and their imagination, what they saw. You can't tell them Old MacDonald's not fat, he's skinny. Make sure you draw him in a blue overalls with a white shirt and a collar, and he's got glasses and a beard, and make, even if you told them that, they'd all draw it differently. but that's the beauty of it, that's the point of it. And our imagination, all the ideas, all the inventions out there, everything that's ever been and ever was, and all of humanity is that same thing. It's a theme, it's a template, it's a concept that's free for all. And that doesn't belong to anybody. It's the beautiful imprint of your unique choice of how you display it in the present moment that counts, that is, that can, and it can be ever changing and always different. And anytime you pull down that idea, you can make it differently. And to bring it into my concept with shadow work and with this sort of creative thing that I've been going through with the working, understanding that all of my ideas, a poem, a story, a drawing, a doodle, of any video or concepts that I want to talk about, blogs I want to make, or book, whatever, all of them are already out there in their main form, just like the heart shape is out there, just like old McDonald's template is out there, right? And allowing myself the freedom to know that, and to know that each new time I could make it differently, I could paint it differently. It doesn't, no time is the right time and no time is the wrong time in a creative spectrum. Really took my foot off the gas between the burnout and the overwhelm, because when I'd have the overwhelm, I won't feel like I've got to pull everything down and wrap it and give it out right now, because I know, wait a minute, slow down. Let's enjoy my experiences. Let's see where my inner truth is called at right now to actually enjoy the creative process, so that I can imprint that process with positivity, unconditional love, appreciation as is, truth, honesty, freedom, right? I have to have and be in that frequency. I have to be embodied in that during the creative process of making each thing, in order for it to really be out there and live that life, and to really set myself free through it, instead of entangling and enslaving myself into all these things. And that comes with a whole other burden of creativity when we enslave ourselves with our creations. And I've been through that too. I've been very bogged down by that for many years, and cutting myself free now, and now operating freely and learning how to create more freely, and with positive systems in mind, with my own higher self in mind, my own highest path, going into each one of these exchanges more prepared. Just like I was giving that snorkeling, diving kind of thing. When we go into these more intense experiences with some planning beforehand and preparation, we're better fitted to enjoy the experience. It doesn't mean it's going to come out better. It doesn't mean it's going to be the best painting. It doesn't mean it's going to be come out exactly as you planned and assumed either when you do that, but it's just allowing and the being during it that becomes important. That becomes where the juices and the quality is at, where the real experience is, and the enjoyment is, and that's seeing more in the gradient, more of the shading of the daytime into the afternoon and evening, kind of in your own creations. And as you're doing these new projects, and I've noticed this with myself, with many projects that I'm involved in and working on, I can see the gradient better with them, and I'm working now to tie up loose ends better, to create endings and boundaries better, and it's tying into the work of this month, June, for me here to talk about and bring into real life kind of the things that I'm working with, from like tarot and all the inspiration from spiritual working. That this is June is a real time of magic, of alchemy, of learning about that Ten of Swords, that creation of the boundary, that completion of a whole, and how it's allowed to be sent out, how it's allowed to be seen, how it interacts with other, how it sees itself. All of those kind of processes that we can finally get into when we actually set a boundary, when we actually know about the inner workings and we have the completion there. We have the creator mindset or the observer's view to really function as a whole and to really see it as it is. That is approaching in my life and in my working and understanding now, with my creative projects even better, and with more clarity about how I want to wrap things up, about how I want things to really put that final imprint on it, that set that sacred boundary, that tone, put the bow on it, kind of, with that gift creation that I was talking about, right? And making sure that it's tied with love and appreciation, and that I enjoyed the feel of that velvet ribbon as I tie it up, and that I really noticed and took my time, appreciating it. Is that's the quality that you get. That's the feedback, the confirmation, the admiration, and the experience of it comes from yourself and is given to yourself through that good quality of work, through that knowing you took your time and you really put effort into it, that it's 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 such an intricate working too, especially for anybody who comes from a more micromanager kind of organizational control freak kind of mindset, or maybe you've got a lot of programming. And I've been noticing more and more layers of that kind of programming. You think it's gone, and then I realize, oh, I've only deleted some of the in-app purchases, but like the operating system and the main things are still under here. You know, every time I pull back a layer, I find the root poking through, and I've got to kind of pull it out again and wonder, like, where is the base of this? But stop wondering where the base of it is and just do the layer at hand and do the work, and that's it. Because if you're worrying about where's the root at it, you're questioning the ultimate purpose. You're still questioning the real truth of it. You're not relaxing and knowing that source, spirit, God has your back. Your ancestors, your higher self is right there behind you with their hands like on your back, you know, just giving you that little push, that little sense of comfort too, that little guiding, you're not alone, powerful nudge that we all need and that we all, you know, are capable of giving ourselves too. Just allowing and remembering that it's there. So yeah, I guess this has been my kind of light work, pump us up, keep us going. Need it for myself, especially now. I've been, you know, talking a lot about systems and talking about negative agenda as well, and sort of coagulating and drawing in some more shadow aspect pieces, and taking my attention into manyness over on the negative side of the spectrum and building and exploring over there a bit to try to tie on to things, to drag them in, to evaluate and share with others, right? But when I do that work, if I'm not conscious of what I'm doing, I'm collecting negative vibe around myself, you know? And so by kind of expelling this and by charging my light and sharing these workings with you all right in live time while I'm doing it in my real life, I hope that it's a good example for all of us. And I feel in my own self that I have, you know, connected with my truth, charged it up. I can feel that working. And I hope I'm inspiring you to sense that and get in there and find your own for yourself. So if you sat with me for this like 50-minute talk, thank you so much for listening to my morning blabbing. I appreciate your audience so much, and thank you for your beautiful contribution to our collective. Thank you for witnessing mine and for drawing parallels between, for having this space to explore self-care, self-love, right? I hope you'll take it into your everyday. I hope you'll bring it in some introspective time for yourself, and yeah, do some of that seeking of the day and the night within yourself. Go watch your 24-hour period and appreciate it. Appreciate the passing of time and your circadian rhythm, and your little changes and nuances, and then go sit and witness in the organic world around you and appreciate it as well, and see what you get from that. See where that takes you, you know, what kind of keys and doors you're led to through that, hopefully. I think if we all do this and we get into this more, this working now, into real time, you know, we've hit that peak and we're getting into downhill. So you got to get the momentum going and go with it. And so get a positive momentum and be flying and soaring with positivity instead of going downhill on this, you know, really negatively, badly designed soap car derby thing that's ready to crash at the bottom with the negative agenda. So be mindful of the path you're on, I guess, is my message here at the end. Thank you so much for listening to me again. In the meantime, you know, you could always find me directly on my website, amariespeaks.com. Send me an email if you're interested in having conversations, or you have comments or critiques even. Welcome those. So send me an email or leave a comment if you feel called to. And yeah, I guess I'll see you next time.